started using Hammer Perpetuem in June 2010. That's 7 whole years now, and haven't gotten sick of it yet. I've never puked with it or anything. I actually started with it in a 24-hour race. So the whole adage about don't do anything new for a race, well, I tried Hammer Perpetuem for 24 hours and it worked. I find that the way that you mix it up, the way that I mix it up, will vary depending on the kind of event that I'm doing and whether I have access to crew or not, and whether it's cold weather or not. And that all of those different factors can change the way that I'll use the product actually. So one of the ways that I would use the Perpetuem for a long training run would be to use a soft flask. And so in it goes. A scoop is 120 calories. So you put in, I'm roughly a scoop an hour person. If I'm in a training run, I will eat a little bit more because I'm running slower and I can obviously digest more when I'm running slower. So I would go for kind of a scoop an hour and then maybe add a bonus scoop or two depending on the length of my outing, or I might add some other fuel to augment the Perpetuem if I wanted while I'm out on a long run. The way I mix it up is the powder goes in to the container first, and these things you can get like at least 8 scoops actually in here, and that'll fill right up to here, so with powder. And once you add the liquid, the height of the whole mixture actually goes down. So I add a bit of water to it and then just start sloshing it around. The key thing when I put the lid on is don't let the lumps, because there'll be lumps in it at first, don't squeeze lumps up into the little bite valve thing, because that'll annoy you to no end if you get lumps in there. So just be mindful when you put if you're going to mix it right in here, that you put the lid on, and then just make sure you're mixing it down low. I squeeze it and rub it and shake it and whatever, but I just make sure I'm not squeezing it up into the top. And I mix in a bit of water, stir it around, mix in a bit more water, stir it around. It just needs to be thin enough that it's going to go through the bite valve, but it can still actually be quite pasty if you're comfortable, if you like the pasty kind of taste and or texture, and I do. When I'm taking one of these out, usually I'm not fueling right away because I've just had breakfast or whatever, and so I think just it's a simple action of also it just sitting in the pack and jostling up and down as you're moving also helps to shake it, so I don't end up having problems with lumps in when I mix it up right in the flask. If you're finding it hard to actually mix it up in there, then you can certainly mix it up in a bottle like this. So wide mouth is great, and put your scoops in, put your water in, shake it up, and then just use the funnel to pour in. Just remember that because there's only 120 calories in a scoop, and if you start going from container to container and the funnel and everything else, you're going to leave some fluid in this container, maybe on your funnel, before it goes in here. So if you're precisely measuring for a race, know that, you know, you may have just lost, I don't know, 35 or 40 calories or something that may actually just be residue on your other containers. That could be something that throws you off if you're really finely precise with your fueling, particularly for a race, and I am, so that's something that I would notice. Mixing containers, wide mouth is good, but Nalgene, I say, fails here in the sense that with this attachable lid, this is a pain in the neck, so don't do this. Don't use these ones for any of the mixing of the Perpetuem. When I'm racing in something like a 24-hour event, I like to have the Perpetuem and the water that I need for the event basically all in one. So my water and my fuel are together, and I'm taking extra sips of water if I need to. If I think I'm going to need about 500 mils of water an hour, then 500 mils goes in here, a scoop of Perpetuem or a scoop and a half, whatever I think I need. And then the lid goes on, you shake, 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 and then just open the top, and from there you can just squirt out to fill this guy. And if you've got, you know, 500 mils or whatever, you test it out in advance, but basically you're going to get 4 of these. So every 15 minutes then I'm going to get one of these handed to me while I'm on the track, and I run around, I drink it. It's runny, so it's very easy to get down very quickly. And the one thing that they have to remember is, as crew, is 15 minutes later when they're ready to do the next serve into this one, is to shake it up again, because it will start to settle. So shake it up again, pour some more in, hand it over. If I'm racing and and I don't have a crew available, then I'm going to make it up in a thick batch, and I'm going to make it in something big like this, so that it's like pancake batter, basically. It's going to be that thick, and then I can have 8 scoops or something, so it's going to last me a long time. You can also make it up quite thick in here too, just like a gel consistency basically, and make it up in here. These kinds of flasks, all those old waist belt style kind of flasks, those are what I was using a lot for races, say something like you know, 100-kilometer trail race or something where I see crew periodically. I would just swap out little flasks like this to put in, knowing that you can mix up your Perpetuem, the number of scoops and the water content and whatever, you know, whatever it says on the container, it doesn't, you know, and it says consume 500 mils of made up drink per hour. Well, that's only a suggestion. It's all based on your body weight and your adaptations to fueling and how much liquid you actually need to take in for the conditions of the time. So really, it doesn't matter. It's just fuel. So you can mix it up as thick or thin as you like with as many calories as you think you need. I would, as I say, I would use about a scoop, 120 calories to a scoop and a half per hour when I'm racing, and it's speed dependent. If you're running with something like this and you have the thick pancake batter, you presumably have your hydration pack on that has plain water in it, and then you're taking your sips of plain water just as you need, to get your water requirements. When you come home from your outing, it's important to wash the containers quite quickly. You definitely don't want to take the lid off and just let it sit there and start to dry out or anything. It's way easier and it's more hygienic. It's much safer. You don't want to end up with bad fuel going off in one of your containers. Just get it under the tap and fill it up with water. At least just let it soak and be filled up with water so that nothing is getting hardened in it. And use a rubbing action because it's hard to get any kind of implement down there, but I don't really find I need to do that as long as I clean them promptly. The temperature of Perpetuem is another factor that's quite important. If I'm racing in hot conditions, I have to have my Perpetuem cold. It's pretty much unpalatable to me, and probably pretty much anything would be if it was warm. So any water that I have trackside for an event like that will be being chilled on ice, so the water's cold. And if something's made up in a container like this, it's being dished to me in portions, it's kept somewhere where it can stay cold. Because as soon as that water gets warm and with the fuel in it, I don't want to drink it. I can drink plain warm water, but once it's got the fuel in it, I cannot drink it warm if the conditions are hot out. If I've got it mixed in a pancake batter though, I'm absolutely fine to have it warm. So it can be a warm race, and I've got that mixed in a self-sufficiency kind of trail race, and I've got it, the container on me, and that's not a problem. And that's completely a personal preference thing. It makes no difference if it's hot or cold in terms of the actual product. But palatable, what's palatable to me is changeable depending on the weather. If the weather gets cold, if I'm on a track, say, and the weather gets cold at night, then I'll ask to have warm water, or not heated water, but just lukewarm water then, as opposed to chilled water, because that can just get shocking to the system on a cold night to try to be drinking something cold as well. Flavor is a huge thing. So I am personally not a big fan of strawberry flavored things. And I think it's just because when I was a kid, I had so many strawberry flavored things that I just got over it. I bonded very quickly with the orange vanilla, which I find super mild, and that's my go-to for racing, is always orange vanilla. Cafe latte I bonded with as well, really well. I love that, but I use that one for training, and I get sick of that flavor if I'm racing. Like, there's just too much taste left in my mouth and aftertaste with it. But training wise, I could run with it for 8 hours and I don't get sick of it. I tried mixing them before, but the cafe latte was actually just kind of overpowers the very mild orange vanilla. If the sound of a flavor does not sound good to you, don't use that as a guide to say for sure, oh, well, orange vanilla, I won't like that. That just doesn't sound nice. Because that's exactly my experience with the orange gels. Was I didn't try orange gels for years because I was sure I just wouldn't like the taste. It just didn't sound right at all to me. So be open to seeing if you can get a sample from somebody, or get a sample pack from Hammer Nutrition if you can.
What do you do when you find out your video stopped recording and it's the day before you go overseas for 3 months? Improvise! Ultra running is all about flexibility after all. I think the main point that DNF'd this video was to be sure to use any pre-mixed Perpetuem within 3 to 5 hours. You can extend that out to 6 to 8 hours if it's refrigerated. In a long, self-sufficient race, just leave powder in flasks in your drop bags to mix when needed. There's a summary on usage info at the link here, and a good short video showing mix techniques here. Bon appetit!